Changes are coming to the Montreal Canadiens lineup as after not a great start to the season offensively, Habs fans are clamoring for lineup changes, including a lot of people calling for Emil Heineman to shoot his way into the top 6. We'll dive into an article that discusses that today. Plus, with an update on Cayden Guhle's injury not being long-term, that raises even more questions to the decor. Who stays? Who goes? Has Logan Mailloux earned himself a spot? Will someone unexpected get sent down? There are a lot of things to get into, all coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. But Jesse, the first thing I want to get into is not necessarily roster moves. I want to talk about something that has been under the radar elite for Montreal. Now, I originally saw this on Reddit, but I took the screenshot myself from NHL.com because I almost couldn't believe it when I first saw it. But one thing, Jesse, that we were talking about, the Habs defense has not been good this year. I mean, we know that. The D-core has been near the bottom of the league in terms of defensive metrics across the board. But in one particular case, the Habs defense has not been bad, and that is the penalty kill. They are currently second in the entire NHL in penalty kill percentage, and they're at 90.9%. They are only behind the Dallas Stars in terms of penalty kill percentage. Jesse, this to me, for the amount of penalties Montreal takes, they have been elite right now this season in killing penalties. That's not just coming from block shots from guys like Guhle and Savard and even some of our forwards, but that's stick play. Mainly, I want to shout out Jake Evans because that dude has been amazing on the penalty kill. He always has been, but this caught me a bit off guard, Jesse, and I think we got to give some praise where it's due.
And we're getting a little bit of a sample size here. We know that our penalty kill is pretty good, and Josh, it's so nice when you're a young rebuilding team to have things you can kind of build upon and kind of benchmark from year to year. Like, okay, yes, this is noticeably getting better. And we saw this trend kind of from last year, right? Where the penalty kill was pretty good at the end of the season, and continuing it on to this year is absolutely amazing. Even though there's kind of a new cast of some players on there. We've seen also Josh Anderson putting in some good work on the penalty kill as well. So, absolutely. So you have to feel like this is really big for this team, not only with the penalty kill, but also with the power play. Like, our special teams overall have not been bad. You know, we're around that 12th position right now for the power play as well. You kind of put those things together, like two big indicators that need to be pretty good to be in the very coveted mix. You know, those things are working well. So, Josh, when we look at the things that the Montreal Canadiens need to improve, I think it's, you know, it's the penalties, you know, it's allowing those slot chances. But like, other than that, like, there's some major positives that this team can really build upon. You have to feel like if they can kind of get that sorted out, that there's strong indicators that they can definitely win games.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, the pieces are there, right? There's these stretches where Montreal as a team plays very good defense, and notably right now it's the PK, and that can serve, that can be a building block, right? There's a lot of ways you can take this, but all in all, there's not too much to glean from this. Again, it's a small sample size, but to be up there with Dallas, who is one of the best defensive teams in the league, they're only allowing 1.5 goals per game, by the way, against them. So for Montreal to be up there with them is really, really nice. And let us know down below your thoughts on this. Did this surprise you guys as much as it surprised us? Though I will say, it has looked good, but I didn't realize it was quite that good. But we got to dive into some roster stuff, Jesse, and we got to start with Cayden Guhle. And finally, it's some good news, but it of course introduces a lot more challenges, even though it's some good news, as yesterday night, I believe it was during the game, Renaud Lavoie came out and said that the Canadian, it's funny when you auto-translate tweets, but the Habs have no long-term concerns with Guhle, and it is not a long-term injury. So he will be back soon. Montreal's back at home on Tuesday versus the New York Rangers. You go to New York to play the Islanders, you come back home to play the Rangers, is what it is. So, Jesse, then that raises the question, what on earth happens with the D-core? Because Logan Mailloux, of course, he came out and scored a goal, his first career NHL goal in his second career NHL game. Matheson was playing with Barron. Barron still didn't look that great, but it is what it is. Hudson's been amazing. Struble looked solid in his first game of the season, coming off of that injury he sustained in the preseason. Xhekaj wasn't playing, and if Guhle's back, Jesse, you have to wonder, who stays in this lineup? Who goes? Will they send Mailloux back down? Or will they keep him up for now? Because I think they have the roster flexibility to do that. I could be wrong. But still, what even happens here? Has Mailloux earned his spot? Is it time to move Barron out of the lineup even though he's playing first pairing? To me, there's more questions than answers at this stage.
In my opinion, Mailloux has earned his spot. Do I think that this is what the Montreal Canadiens will do right now? No. I think that they're going to keep Justin Barron in, but like, Logan Mailloux has put in some very impressive work. You know, it feels like he's really getting along with the team really well, which is so amazing. I have so many good young guys. Like, we got Hudson, we got Xhekaj. Like, obviously the list goes on and on. Mailloux, we got Reinbacher. Like, the amount of young, good D-men when we see them come into the NHL and actually having solid performances, like, This is a lot, almost to the point, Josh, where we'll get this at another point, but you almost need to address that. All these very young defensemen at a certain point. What do you kind of do going forward with that? But yeah, in my opinion, like we have Hudson and Guhle, they're back together as that first pairing. Matheson, you have to feel will kind of slide in with Barron there. In my opinion, I'm having Matheson in with Mailloux and then Struble / Xhekaj in there with Savard kind of on that third pairing. You have to feel like you're liking a lot of things you're seeing from Mailloux right now. We know that obviously we can't be put in Barron. Like, obviously, we'd have to pass waivers to kind of get put down. For me right now, even though I like a lot from his game, I think that he's putting that pressure. He's definitely going to get his chance more, but he's just going to need to be patient right now with the organization.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because it just makes sense for you to send Mailloux down. Like I was saying to you before the show, like you can earn your spot on the team, but that doesn't always mean you're going to play for them right away because there are logistical things you have to do. And in terms of who's easy enough to send down, like, again, this is a 1-game sample size. Yeah, he looked great. He played like 19 minutes or something, even strength. But you looked awesome. But at the same time, like, while Barron hasn't looked great, you still got a bigger, you might want to give him a bit bigger leash. And also, for Mailloux, like, it's not that bad to have him be in Laval. Get those crazy reps. And even though he's proven himself to be worth it, it's not like Montreal can't just make a trade. Like, you can make trades to make room for him. You can do a lot of other things in terms of your roster. So I think you're right, Jesse. I think for now, he probably will be the guy to be sent down once Guhle is ready, back, and healthy if they do send someone down. But I think a lot of you guys might disagree with that. It might be time to say, hey, it's time to move on from Barron. But again, if you put him on waivers, Jesse, I'm pretty sure he's going to get claimed. And we know Montreal doesn't like to do that. So there's still a lot of question marks. But I'd love to hear from you guys down below your thoughts on what Montreal may do on defense. But it's not just defense. We got to talk about the forwards because I'm seeing more and more people say it's time to shake absolutely everything up. I saw people suggesting some of the craziest lines I've ever seen. I've seen people suggest for Oliver Kapanen to jump all the way up to the first line, Emil Heineman to play on the first line. I've seen people saying, you go scratch some kind of fourth line. You see scratch Armia. I don't know. There's a lot of crazy stuff out there. But what I did want to focus on was one article from Dos Points today. It's from Andrew Taylor. Emil Heineman deserves a chance to play in the top 6. And I will link this article down below if you want to have a read through it. Realistically, like when it comes down to it, he has been playing good. Do I actually have his goal? I think I do, right? If I play this highlight again, it starts with Marty because he's going to be the one making the decisions. But Emil Heineman's goal last night in that shootout, I don't know, purely elite release. Like that is so quick, so hard, absolutely sniped it. And when you look at the forwards, Jesse, like there has not been much production. I saw a stat today that the Habs' second line, Newhook, Dach, and Armia combined have 4 points this season. And the fourth line, Heineman, Dvorak, Kapanen, have the same amount of points. That second line is not producing at the level you want a second line to produce. So that's naturally asking people to say, hey, who do we shake up? I'm seeing Juraj Slafkovsky playing with Kirby Dach. That's something that we've seen before. They seem to have a lot of chemistry, but do you really want to break up this first line? Even though they're not dominating at even strength like we're hoping they will, they're still producing a lot of points, especially on the power play. But to me, if we focus on Emil Heineman, I think he's kind of earned that top 6 spot. I think guys like Armia and Newhook could afford to move down a line. Like, I think seeing Heineman with Dach is something I'd love to see. Whether you're going to move guys to their off wing to make this work in the bottom 6, I don't know, but there are certain guys that I think, Jesse, at this point, if you're trying to win, it's worth giving them a shot to see what they can do.
We should give Heineman definitely a shot on that second line. Mario Armia, like his opportunity there on that second line, it was a little bit tenuous, but it's like the question was, can the young guys kind of force Marty's hand? And you have to feel like Heineman, 2 goals in 5 games. There's obviously a lot of things about his game he really likes. I think he would be solid on the second line. For sure, that's why we brought in Patrick Laine. We knew the second line was an issue. But what Heineman can bring to the table in the stead while we're waiting for Patrick Laine is a forecheck to that line. We know that is so important for stopping these easy zone exits from the other team. You get a hard forecheck, you just start. That's when the Montreal Canadiens are really playing the best. They're playing a speed game, but we don't need to just think of that with the puck. A big part of that needs to be in the forecheck. So bringing somebody into the top 6 who we know has a shot, but is going to contribute in this type of way and really stopping zone exits from the premium players who you really want them kind of playing in their own zen, for me, makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways. And even if that means kind of switching up kind of wings and everything else like that, like having Kapanen on that second line, in my opinion, with Dach and Newhook would be a good look. And even Josh, again, if we're talking about our lines, what we would do here in my world, I'm having Kapanen even center that line the fourth. We just need to get a little bit more effective in our faceoff draws. Like Zooks is like pretty much our only net positive faceoff guy. Evans is as well, but it's a close margin. But we're getting better stats, right now from Kaiden over his sample size than even Dvorak. I just think it's so important to win those faceoffs, add a little bit of forecheck to that second line. I think that the young guys have deserved that shot right now.
It's really interesting because, like, naturally, if you want to move Heineman up to the second line, you got to move Newhook down. But is he going to go to the fourth line? No, he probably goes to the third, and then maybe you move Anderson or Galley down to the fourth line. There's a lot of interesting stuff you can do, but like we saw yesterday, Montreal played the four lines pretty evenly. Now, a lot of that was due to the 8 minutes of shorthanded time that they had to go through, or 8 or 9 minutes, or even more. I don't even remember. It was a lot of shorthanded time, so that skews the time on ice a little bit, makes Jake Evans your second most used forward. I love Jake Evans. He's so good. But when you look at this, like you said, like the faceoff percentage has been a big issue. So moving, like you said, moving someone like Kapanen up is not a bad idea either. Kirby Dach is our second worst faceoff taker this season among guys who have taken at least 5 faceoffs, and Alex Newhook is the worst. Like, these two guys are 37.5 for Dach, and I think like 32% or something for Newhook. Newhook 9 wins, 20 losses. I love Alex Newhook, but that's not really cutting it. While Oliver Kapanen has 10 wins, 11 losses, while not being the primary center. So he's taken some draws on his offside, right? Like, even though, when Dvorak has to be brought in, brought out, whatever. And Dvorak's only at 43%. So to fix some of those face-off woes, I don't think that's a bad idea. You kind of split up Kapanen and Dvorak in some world that really helps your face-off percentage. Montreal's in the bottom 10 in the NHL right now in that department. But also, it can boost a bit of that forecheck. Like you said, that fourth line has been one of the best in terms of like controlling that forecheck so far this season. So there's a lot of changes that could be made. We could go into this for ages and ages, but this video only has a certain amount of time. I want to hear what you would do. Do you think Emil Heineman should be on the second line? Do you maybe want Oliver Kapanen to come up and play primarily center? You move Dach to the wing to give him a little less responsibility. Is he still, I'm sure, recovering a bit from that knee surgery? There's a lot of question marks, but I'm really excited to see what's coming next. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. And if you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. The main thing is subscribe to the channel. We're pushing towards 16,000. And if you want to help us reach that goal, we'd really appreciate it. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.